Hello all. So if you ever wanted to containerize your application with Docker, all you have to do is you have to open up, you have to install Docker first. Sudo pacman for arch. You just install Docker. So what this will do is this will install the Docker and related dependencies. So after doing that, you can systemctl enable dash now and docker dot service. You can do that. So this will enable the Docker daemon for you. So the thing with Docker is it always require a daemon which is running in the background to manage the containers. It's different from podman or builder. So builder or podman doesn't require, like builder can build containers without having a daemon. So the next is you need to have an application. So I've written something. So this is this is a JavaScript file which prints hello world to your screen. So if you type, for example, node and dot slash, and if I specify the application name, for example app.js, it just prints out hello world, as you can see over here. It's nothing fancy or something. So here I have created a Docker file. So what this does is, here we are specifying from which we need to create the Docker image, like the image file. So here we are specifying we need to have the node and Alpine. So I'm using Alpine Linux because it's going to be relatively smaller while you use. So you can get this information. So if I use my browser here, if I search Docker Hub, it's going to open up the Docker container image registry. So here you can create an account if you want. If you need to push your images to the Docker Hub, you need to have an account. So here if you want to run some particular application, for example node for this case, so if you need to run something like GCC, you need to choose that accordingly. So this is the node one. So here you have the official image name. So the way you use this is, here it's specified you can use this with node colon version or node colon the name of the Linux distribution. So that's what I have done, node colon Alpine. So Alpine Linux is like a very small Linux distribution. It's based on Muscle, so it's fairly simple and easy to use. So from here you can get all this information about how I specified from and which package I used over here, like which image I specified. So if you need something like GCC, you can search GCC. So this is the official image. So here you have some information how you can use this. So this is pretty much how you build your Docker file. So this gives you a template, so you can follow that. So let's come back to our application. So this specifies we are going to use node and our Linux distribution is Alpine. We are going to copy everything from our current directory to the /app directory inside our container image, and our working directory is specified as /app, or else each and every time we need to run a command we have to specify the location to the app.js. So we specify the working directory before, then we specify the command and how we need to run. So command node space app.js. So what this does is, this does the same thing like this. So after this is done, I think this is really small for you to read, so I'm going to spin up a terminal. So in order for you to use Docker, to create a Docker image, you have to navigate to the directory which you have created the Docker file. So for me, it's in this directory. So if I do an ls, you can see this is my application and this is where my Docker file is. So if I open up the VS Code, you can see it's inside this directory. So I have these two files. Now here I'm just going to use sudo for this because of my current security settings. So docker, and I can specify build and takt, and I can specify a name like this is my image file, for example. So the name is entirely up to you because you can name anything you want, but there is a convention like for your application you can specify your name as if like this is one way of doing things, or else if you have a Docker account like a Docker Hub account or Quay or something like that, you can specify your repo name. So you specify your repo, then you specify your name of the image file, then you can specify the version like version 1.0 or something. It's entirely up to you. So for this demonstration I'm just going to use the name of the image file because I haven't created a Docker Hub. I use builder to create pod containers, so for me that's more easier. So you build it like this. So if you do that, I think I did something wrong. Yeah, I have to specify the path to where this Docker file is. So currently we are inside that directory, so we need to like we can give a dot, or we can like specify the absolute path. You can specify like that. So what this will do is this will download the image of Node Alpine, and this will create a Docker image according to our Docker file, so how we have specified. So currently we can see we have created the container, like we have created the image file. So the first thing we would like to do is we can see, so I can do like sudo docker, like for my case images, to see the currently available Docker images. So these are the two available Docker images. So if I need to interact with it, I can use the docker run command. So if I use like docker run, and if I specify my image name or the image ID, so you can use the repository name or you can use the image ID. That's entirely subjective. So this will give you the output. So if you, instead of using the container ID, if you specify the image file like the repository name, it's still going to give you the output. So if you need to view all images, or you can do like docker image ls, so both will work fine. So if you need to run a container, so you can do sudo docker container. If you click a tab, it will give you a help. So these are the options which you can use with it. So currently we don't have any active containers, so we only have two images. We only have these two. So if you need to view your containers, you can do it sudo docker container ls. So this will give you the running containers in your system. Then you can like basically if you have any containers running in your system, you can use sudo docker stop a running container. So if you stop like, and you can specify the container ID over here. So this is image ID. I don't have any containers in my system currently. Then if it's not stopping in some case, you can do a sig kill by using kill and container ID for the Docker image. Then to view your Docker network status, you can do like Docker network and NLS. So it will give you like the networking of Docker. It will give you the current network ID and all these things. Then you have like options to forcefully remove your container. So you can use docker, let me clear my screen, rm to remove the container. So if you use rm followed by the container id, so if I do a sudo docker container ls, you can see I don't have any containers over here. So if you have some container, if you want to remove that, you can do, if it's stopped, you can do an rm, and you can do an rmi or rm. So rmi is like delete with very dependencies or something. You can do a dash f for force. So if it's running container and if you need to delete it, you can do like you can use dash f. If it's not running, you can use like just rmi. So it'll do the same thing. Then if you have a docker hub account, if you need to put this into remote registry, or if you need to pull something from the remote registry, you can use docker pull, and you can specify the image name. So for example, we can use like docker images. So if you need to pull something, you can pull, and you can specify image file. Like for example, this is not going to work, you can do a pull. Then if you need to push this into, see, it's not going to work. So if you need to push this into remote registry, you can do a docker push. So that will like so if you do a sudo docker push, and after this you have to specify your repo, like to where you want to specify your image to be hosted. So like you can specify my repo and the image name, and you can specify like if you have version or something, you can specify that. So that's entirely subjective. Then here if I do a docker images, you can see I currently have 2 docker images. So how can I remove that? So I can do a sudo docker and rmi, and I can specify the image. So here I have, so this one will delete the running, like the existing image in my system. So if I do a sudo docker images, can only see 1 available. So if I want to remove that, I can follow the same pattern like last time, and this will remove that. So if you don't have that running, you can remove that with just rm, but I like to use rmi-f, so it will remove everything dependent to that. So if we do a docker like docker images, we don't have any images in our system, so clean slate. So I hope this one was helpful. So I will put a link in the description which will like give you through some advanced concepts like port forwarding and all those things. This was like just a basic intro. So I hope this one was helpful. I hope you all have a wonderful day.